Viva, viva, viva. June 25th. June 25th is a day that no one can afford to ignore, whether you are pro or against the government. So this guy shows up, I think, in a hardware. Let me bring it in a context that you can understand. When we were in high school, there was a place called Base. It started as rumors. It started as whispers. But today it's blowing. Gen Z tutatoka streets. Tupiganie haki yetu. But it doesn't stop there. Let's not stop the game there. Let's come back on our social media and build ourselves. Viva, viva, viva. Viva today, viva tomorrow, viva always, viva forever. How are you doing, comrades? Yeah, I'm pretty awesome, and I'm happy to welcome you for the second episode of Mics and Voices Experience. This is a sit-down, man. When we were in high school, there was a place called Base. Now Base, I don't know if nyi pia mlikuwa na Base. Now Base was the middle column, the last two rows of the middle column. That was the base. And I found myself sitting at that place, and we founded that place as Base. So, he place, if huna access to anyone, ama huna any relationship with anyone, where si friend wa umse anaka Base, ukanyagi. There were people whom used to chase their like dogs out of Base. And wachache ndio walikuwa naruhusiwa kukaa Base. Wewe Base yako ukwanga wapi, by the way? Base yako ukwanga wapi kama si hapa? I'm just asking a very simple question. Wewe nanga wapi kusikiza Risto kama si hapa? Manze, this is the best, bana. This is the best for all the comrades in our republic. All the comrades in the whole world gathers here at Mics and Voices Experience podcast, where we learn new things as they happen and as they occur, and insights of how we can take them into the future. And I do always tell young people that we are not the leaders of tomorrow. We are the leaders of today. So the mantle is on our hands and the spirit in our hearts. So let's move with zeal. Let's move with confidence, firmness, and energy as we occupy Base. Wewe umeka side gani? Niambie umeka side gani ukisikiza podcast. There are a lot of things that have happened in the past 1 week that no one can afford to ignore. And we are coming to that shortly. But before, I want to give a biblical story of... But before, kulikuwa na msee fulani. I don't know whether it was on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, siku ya sherehe, Sato, siku ya some people, Sabato, some people, Sunday, siku ya church kwa wengine. I don't know kama ilikuwa siku gani, sijui. But msee, ni kama ilikuwa jioni. Kwa ilikuwa magidhaa, ilikuwa imesonga. Ni kama ilikuwa majioni. So this guy shows up, I think, in a hardware. Let me bring it in a context that you can understand. This guy shows up in a hardware and then tells the guy of the hardware that I want nails. I want nails, this and this. Akasema namba ingine kubwa sana. Akasema I want gum. Gum ya wood. I want gum. Akasema tena, I want you to link me with a wood yard. And this guy is like, okay, link me with a wood yard so that I can get to purchase some from them. And then after given all that he asked for, he, of course, carries all that home with the help of, I think, donkeys, camels, and all that. akabeba hii stuff akaenda home. And then umse wa nails ni kama hata kubother kumuuliza, na hii nails mingi unadai kufanyia. Aya, akaenda kwa Udiad. Manze umse akakata miti, mse akakuwa na timba mob mbaya. Akabeba miti akapeleka kwake. And then this guy started assembling all this into something big, huge. And then as this thing started taking shape, kuna wase walikam, wakaanza kumcheka mbaya. Wakaanza sasa unatengeneza boat? Are you normal? Boat? Na tumekuwa na ukame, boat ukame. But umse aku lose hope. Umse aliendelea tu. Wase wanamdisa hapa na pale. He kept on telling people that there is something called floods for 40 days. Floods is coming for 40 days. And these people are like, hey, floods, na tumekuwa na ukame. You know about. People went on with whatever they were doing, but this guy kept on doing what he was doing. I don't know for how many years, can't recall when. Well, how many years it took him to complete doing all this that he was doing. Then, after all that time, umse akakuwa ashajenga a very huge ship line. With stories and all that, with rooms and all that. Now, he started telling people to assemble, to gather so that they can get into the boat, because there is a very heavy storm, a very heavy flooding that is coming. But I was say, aliona umse ako risto gani bana? Hiyo ni jab. Hiyo ni jab mengine mbaya. But then it slowly started raining. But this guy had gathered animals, nini, into pairs, aka huko ndani. This is Noah in the Bible. So it started raining. Of course alikuwa na familia yake. Hapo ndani ya hiyo boat, and then it started raining. Hata ule msi alimuuzia nails. All the people that he had interacted with did not manage to come with him into the ship, because it all started as a rumor. But now it was now exploding into waves and waves of flooding. It was raining heavy downpour like it was no one's else business. That happened in the Bible. But then it seems this is happening again to us. Because the occurrences that happened on June 25th resembles an occurrence of the same. In this manner. It all started as whispers. It all started as little blowing winds. Very less. Adio, fanya hivi, we want good governance, nini. Nao vijana wanasema nini? Sasa hawa vijana wanasema nini? And it is something that didn't start today. It's something that started long time ago. It started as rumors. It started as whispers. But today it's blowing. Blowing, my brother. It's blowing, man. Bro, hii kitu ina blow mbaya. Waves and waves of blows happening all over the country on the basis of quest for good governance, constitutionalism, and democracy. That's it. June 25th. June 25th is a day that no one can afford to ignore. Whether you are pro or against the government, no one can afford to ignore. It's a day that marks history. The same way kulikuwa na Sabasaba. I think it's now 25th June. Sabasaba ilikuwa day yenye wase wenye walipigania constitution. Hii ya multipartyism. I think that is what it is. I'm not so sure about it. Yeah, hapo tu. Those people fought. And the fight for justice didn't start yesterday. It started a long time ago. Have a look at this. When the white man had come to Africa, when a Berlin meeting was held in 1880 something, in Berlin, in Germany, on how the white man was coming to share Africa. Waligawana, we mse utachukua hapa, we Germany, we Italy, we Britain, we utachukua hii. But then they started, when they landed into Africa, they found out that Africa was so damn rich, man. Africa was so rich. Kama ni gold, kama ni ivory, kama ni wildlife, kama ni natural resources, zote zilikuwa Africa. Zote. Nini haikuwa Africa? So our seven walifika Africa. Wakaona hii yote ni mali. Yote ni mali. All this is wealth. Oh, Africa, the richest. And then wakajifanya ati sasa wana name ati NASA, the person who named Mount Kenya. Kwani wase wa Central hawakuanga. Then the guy who sijui named Lake Victoria, and he discovered Lake Victoria, discovered River Nile, discovered Mount Kenya, discovered all sorts of all these things. And then they started fighting against each other for the wealth that Africans had. And then the most interesting part of it is that they fought themselves on the Africa, on foreign soil, on foreign land. Wakapigana, and then they took our lands. Wakatu push to the reserves. Africans were pushed to the reserves nyendeni huko mpale. They took the rich lands, wakaziita the white highlands, the white settlers. Africans started working for them, but then they introduced two things that made Africans realize themselves. Religion, whether it's Islam, whether it's Christianity, but religion and education. Hizi vitu mbili. These are what made Africans to realize themselves. And slowly, those who had the privilege of going to school in the white schools, in the white man's schools, whether they were only blacks and only whites, but so long as they got access to that little knowledge of the African, of the white man, then their intellectual capacity boomed. They started thinking, we can as well rule ourselves. We can as well rule ourselves. That was it. And then, slowly by slowly, Africans started gaining momentum against this. I don't remember, first when they were initiating these rules, the Africans rejected. And the only reason as to why they fought Africans was because they had superior weapons. I think that's the most. They had superior weapons. Walikuwa wanatumia gun, Waafrika wakitumia mawe. Walikuwa wanatumia all sorts of things. Waafrika wakitumia spears. And you know, for you to vuruta that spear, it takes time. Huyu ni mzeana ta. And so Africans said, whatever our fathers did, we can also do them. The likes of Kenyatta, the likes of Dedan, aka Dedan Kimathi, and other fighters. They started doing all sorts of things because they realized they can as well fight the white man. They fought. They staged a very spirited fight. They fought until they liberated our country from the chains and yokes of colonialism. And today we are here celebrating freedom, independence. But as Oginga Odinga puts it, not yet uhuru. Not yet. Because freedom is something that is constantly fought for. Then the Africans took leadership again. The white man left. The African was given the mantle, the freedom, the authority to rule their countries. And our African countries started running. But a problem came up. Sheda. Waafrika wakaanza sasa kujihat wenyewe. Corruption. Remember when we were at independence, there were only 3 ailments that Africans were suffering from. Ignorance. Hiyo ni ujinga. Poverty. Umaskini. And diseases. Ugonjwa. That's it. That's it. But then, the Africans who are given the opportunity to rule, they also started their own ways of doing stuff. And there came a time Africans were fighting against themselves. If you go to Ghana, you'll find there are people against Nkrumah. If you come to Kenya, there are people against Kenyatta. If you go to TZ, Tanzania, there are people against Nyerere. If you go to whichever place that Africans were given the opportunity to rule, there were people against the existing government. Meaning, they started fighting themselves against each other. And that's something, and that is where our problems began. The Africans who are in power started belittling their colleagues whom they fought alongside, but were not fortunate enough to form government. Instead of now coming together as people and saying, manze, hii stuff tuko nayo. Tumechase wale white man. Tumechase the white man. We now have this leadership with us. Why don't we use it to change the lives and livelihoods of our people? This never happened. This never happened. Started fighting, nini, it evolved. Coming back to Kenya. Kenyatta died. After ruling, of course, there was some 1, 2, 3 happened. The likes of Tom Mboya, the likes of J.M. Kariuki, the likes of those people. You know? They were eliminated when they fought for governance, good governance and constitutionalism. They were eliminated. Whenever a government felt like this person is a threat to my seat, Tom Mboya, J.M. Kariuki, alongside others, wakaenda. Even the writers, great writers, the fallen, the recently, the late Ngugi wa Thiong'o started writing literature books about governance. Fly away. If you can't go, you have to flee. Then Moi was given the leadership mantle. Moi also akafanya mambo yake, vitu zake, one party state, nini. Then there came a time people said, oh yeah, enough is enough. You're fed up. We want to be a multi-party state. The fight was so man. Manzia wase walipigana mbaya. The fight for this democracy, the fight for multipartyism. It was so severe. Many people were killed, many people were injured, many people were tortured. But at the end of it all, a beacon of light shone at the end of the tunnel. And today we are in a multi-party state. But now we are in a multi-party state. Kibaki gets to power, and there is a feel that constitutional is not fully followed, and that the constitution has gaps, loopholes that are resulting into incomplete democracy. So wase wakaanza tena kwenda streets kupigana so that there can be complete democracy and complete constitutionalism. It doesn't mean that the current constitution doesn't have loopholes and gaps, but then it had a lot. And so a team sits down, analyzes the constitution, and that resulted to the 2010 constitution. But before that, some few years before the 2010 constitution is promulgated, a great fight is held. A great fight is held after an election. And that resulted to a lot of life lost, economy ikaingia kwa shimo. It was so tragic. And then our leaders came together, peace, a new constitution. But now the problem we have a very, very nice constitution. But the problem is that constitution being followed? That is the problem. And that is why what started as a whisper, what started as rumors on internet, has reached its full-blown stage, and it's now storming the streets of this country in waves, storming the streets of this country in cry and quest for justice. And that is the so-called Gen Z revolution. We've had a lot of revolution. The independence revolution, the multi-party revolution, the 2010 constitution revolution, and now we have the Gen Z revolution, which is totally advocating for constitutionalism. Actually, if you look at all the issues, it's just about constitutionalism. Because if the constitution is followed to the latter, we'll have good governance. We'll have the freedoms of every individual respected. That is the thing that the Gen Zs are calling for. And so, the Gen Z revolution began. And being that this is an era of the social media, a lot of it has been promoted on social media. And therefore today we have the people planning a demonstration without having a single meeting, a single physical meeting or a baraza. You know, in the past, the politicians had to come together, gather people and tell them, on this day, Enda Kerecha, on this day, Nakuru, on this day, Bungoma, on this day. But today, the power of social media, on TikTok, they just retweet, repost, retweet. And that resulted to 25th June 2024, when there was a real revolution against the Finance Bill 2024. But this revolution did not stop there. It continued for revolution for constitutionalism and the complete follow. And so wase wakaingia streets, nini, wakapigana, nini. They were fought by the police. They were peaceful, but they fought by the police. Other peaceful protests were infiltrated by goons, robbers, and ill-fated men and women. A lot of lives were lost, and so to commemorate this day was the June 25th of 2025. And so it's a revolution that no one can attempt to ignore. This is a revolution that no one can attempt to ignore. No one. And so to start with, we can observe a moment of silence for the lives that were lost on the previous protest, that is June 25th, 2024, and this one, a moment of silence. We hope that justice, rule of law, we hope that their families will be fed justice and nothing else but justice. But now what is the way forward? See, kama Gen Z. As the Gen Z, what's the way forward? Because we have shown our might. We've shown that we can do wonders. What is the future? And how does this future look like? You know, as I started by saying that this revolution didn't start today. It started a long time ago. Ilianza kitambo mbaya. It's the same way I want to say that it didn't start, yes, today, but it started a long time ago, yes, but all these revolutions have always been advocating for something. And you find that the perpetrators of the previous revolutions, after they get the opportunity to get into power, they become now the enemy of what was fought for. And this is the case because We fight, but we never build what we want. Gen Z tutatoka streets, tupigane mbaya, tupiganie haki yetu. But it doesn't stop there. Let's not stop the game there. Let's come back on our social media and build ourselves. No matter your business, no matter your part, I normally tell my friends that in any single way you can contribute to nation building. And that's very important. Once each and every person builds something purposefully for nation building, whether unapata ka token kidogo, ka profit from it, but you're building this stuff, end goal is nation building, to have a better state, to have quality education, to have quality jobs. You know, when we fight and then build, they come out as blocks, stamping blocks that will prevent future leaders of tomorrow from fighting us, fighting the current generation. Toka street, ingia kwa keja, piga mahesabu zako. Toka streets, ingia online, tafuta tutorials. Toka street, analyze yourself. Look at what you can do, man. That's the most important thing. Look at what you can do. That's the most important thing that we need to generate. Because we can constantly be fighting. Those who fought for independence, they got us this independence. But as Jaramogi puts it, some years later, is that it's not yet Uhuru. Why? Let's build systems. Don't just wait to go to school, then come back, ask the government for jobs. Just try doing something. That's it. Because if that is the case, then we'll be fighting. Today we are fighting for the rule of law. Tomorrow, the same people who are with us in the streets fighting are the same people who are now stepping on us or stepping on the current generation. Let's get to the next step. Let's keep on fighting for justice. Let's keep on fighting for the rule of law. Let's keep on fighting for constitutionalism. But let's not stop there. Tusonge a step higher. Now to build ourselves. Just little business of yours, just build it. That thing that you constantly talk about. It's time to stop talking. It's time to start acting. That's it. It's time to stop theories and look into practicals. Because even if time comes, if you don't have the capacities, if you don't have capacities, no one will give you an ear, no one will listen to you. But if you have a capacity, if you can introduce yourself beyond your name, very important. And as in a book, it's written, fill your buckets in the right order. Fill your buckets in the right order. Just fill your buckets in the right order. And this is the order of those buckets. The first bucket is education, what you know. The second bucket is skills, what you can do. The third bucket is the resources, what you have. The fourth bucket is the connection, who you know or who knows you. And then the fifth bucket is your reputation. That's it. And if we are a youth that has a mindset past fighting, a mindset of building, then our fight will never go for granted. There will come a time will break the generational expectation that those people fought, we also have to fight. No, we can always fight and fight forever. We can always fight, build, and have a voice, a very strong voice. That is it. Let's keep fighting, as well as let's keep building. Viva, viva comrades, viva. Viva, viva today, viva tomorrow, viva always, viva forever. Thank you for listening to the podcast. My name is Samito the First. Until next time, see you. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. Bye-bye.